Well, hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode, another show of Life by Randy. You could tell my background is a little bit different, and that's because we are at our home in Lakeside, Marblehead, Ohio, which is on the amazing Great Lake of Lake Erie. And we have a beautiful little home here in the Chautauqua, Lakeside, Chautauqua was founded in 1873 in the Victorian era, and it is a gem in Ohio. And we have the privilege and pleasure of having a respite here. And so this is the reading room that we have. And we're taping our first show from Lakeside, Chautauqua. And we have the privilege of welcoming my new friend who we've known each other for a long time before we actually met this past summer at Lakeside, Chautauqua. And it's my pleasure to welcome Rose Sabin to Life by Randy. So welcome, Rose. So good to see you.
So much, Randy. This is so wonderful. I have to say, I did meet you in Lakeside. It was a wonderful experience. Lakeside is magical to me, just like it is for you, I'm sure. And so many people need to know about it. They don't know. It's like a best kept secret, don't you think?
It is. It is. It's 1 square mile near Marblehead in Fort Clinton. And my husband's had a home here almost 30 years now.
Oh my, that's awesome.
So I got the pleasure of being here. Well, I knew about Lakeside Chautauqua before we got married and before we met. And but now I get to live here part-time and have you as a neighbor in Marblehead. So
yes, I'm just down the road, about 10 minutes.
So
for anybody in your audience, if they've never been to Lakeside, we should encourage them to come. It's just magical. It's just a beautiful place to be. I think it's like a mind, body, spirit connection in that town of yours. Really love it.
Thanks, Rose, for saying that, because it's like a hallowed ground here, sacred ground.
It's very sacred. Yes, sacred space.
In any Chautauqua, it feeds the mind, body, and spirit. And so it has also a spiritual religious component. It has the cultural events. We have our own symphony here. And it's just 1 square mile. And it's a throwback, actually, from decades ago of lemonade stands on the corner and kids in wagons. And
if people come to Lakeside open and receptive, it's so amazing who you meet. Like, you are one of many wonderful, interesting people I met this past summer, only because I was open and receptive. I like to say yes to offers as often as possible. It's one of the mantras I live by, say yes. And so I said yes to the opportunity to teach there. And it was one of the best things I said yes to, because it led me to you and several other wonderful people. So it's been great.
Well, and you also have the farmers market, a booth there or stand there. And so I've got to say, your yoga class was one of the best, probably the best class I've ever taken on the lawn before Hotel Lakeside. But before we sounds like a commercial for Lakeside, which I'm all about. But you have so much wisdom for our Life by Randy community that I want to get to you sharing your wisdom. So Rose, like me, is a breast cancer survivor. And while we were at different stages and we had a different journey to our healing, what we have a number of things in common. And in addition to being breast cancer survivors, is that we have not let breast cancer define us, or we don't want to be defined by our cancer, but yet it certainly has changed us. While not defining us, it has changed us. And in so many ways, because it has been such a precious gift and still is a gift, right, of being diagnosed and walking through the process. And so, Rose, I want you to elaborate on the gift that breast cancer has been and is for you, and your life changes that have resulted in it, and to you stepping into some amazing callings.
Oh, thank you, Randy. I'll never forget the day I was diagnosed. It was September 17th, 2017. And it was so interesting. I went to a spin class. You know that I am passionate about yoga, but I'm also a spin instructor as well as a wellness warrior. And so I was in a spin class, and I had just been from my biopsy the week before. And I knew in my heart because I had biopsies before, but I knew in my heart this one was a little different because my doctor had said to me, you know, Rose, I think I'm going to have you come in and we'll talk it through. Because normally they would just call, you know how this works. They just call you and they say, okay, all good, whatever. But she said to me, I think I need you to come in. And so I decided to calm and center myself. I will go take a yoga class and a spin class. And I'll never forget what the instructor said when I was on the bike that at 9 o'clock that morning, because my appointment with the doctor, the breast surgeon, was that same day at 2 o'clock. She said to everyone in the room, she goes, lovelies, if you do not like the way your life is today, don't worry, because it's going to change. But if you love the way your life is today, I'm sorry, it's still going to change. And I remember hearing those words and starting to cry because I knew that my life needed a change. And sometimes we choose the change, and sometimes the change chooses us. People are so afraid of change because they think change equals loss, right, Randy? We always think change, loss, you know, whether it's cancer, a divorce, we lose our job, we foreclose on our house, or our children grow up and get married and move away, or on and on and on. We think of change, we equate change to loss. Where in yoga philosophy, change is not loss, change is growth. So even sometimes we choose the change. Sometimes we choose to end our career and go in a different venue, or sometimes we choose to leave Cleveland and move somewhere sunny like Hawaii, or sometimes we choose, you know, to end one relationship and begin another. Sometimes, in our case, the change made the choice. And so in those instances, it's even more impactful. I believe, and I know you share this philosophy with me, cancer came as a good change. Yes, when you hear the diagnosis, it's very jarring because you and I have both been in those shoes. And for anybody listening and watching your program today who have been in the shoes that we've been in, it's very jarring in the beginning when you hear that. But once everything settles down and you let that information absorb, okay, and you sit and process with it, you realize it came to teach you something. Cancer is like a guru. In yoga, we talk about a guru meaning teacher. And there's a great saying, Randy, only when the student is ready does the teacher appear in anything in life. So for me, it came at the right time because when it came, I was 48. I was running a very successful boutique ad agency in Cleveland. I had 5 employees, and I was very much wrapped up in all of that. And it was fun and exciting and very lucrative business. I was traveling all over and wonderful experiences, but I wasn't doing the one most important thing that I needed to do. In spite of all the money and all the success and all the growth in that business, I wasn't practicing self-care or self-love. I was taking care of everybody else, my clients, my husband, my family, my mother, my coworkers, my associates. Everybody was in front of me or above me. Nobody was below me. It was my clients, or my husband, or my dog, or my stepson, or you know, my family, and then me, and then God was here somewhere, okay, which is not the answer either, and then everything else. And I learned through cancer how to restructure this pyramid, okay? So before cancer, I was down here on the pyramid. Up here was material things, other people's welfare. You know, think about a pyramid, right? So then after cancer, it helped me to shift. Number 1, love, always God, right here. Number 1, not your job, not your house, not your career, not designer shoes, not travel to, you know, far away exotic lands, not anything, not your husbands, not your children. This is very hard for women to hear. And I want women to listen. Your husband and your kids cannot be here above God and you. No. Number 1, God. Number 2, you. Number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, everything else. When you allow something to be above God or yourself, you don't become broken, you become imbalanced. Imbalance is where cancer and other illnesses whether of the mind or the body, because illnesses could be, depression, anxiety, fatigue, cancer, high blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. When you become imbalanced, when things become priority over God and you, that's when illness takes place. That's all that happened to me. I allowed other things to come above God and me. I put myself on this pyramid. I put myself right here. I didn't practice self-care. I didn't practice self-love.
Yeah.
I didn't take care of myself. I was too busy taking care of everything up here. So cancer came to teach me God first, Rose second, everything else, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Absolutely. And are you familiar with Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, Heal Your Life? I believe that's what it's called. It's on my website, lifebyrandy.com, in the resources.
Oh, but I'm going to write it down. I'm sure I'm going to love it.
Yes. Well, it's
Heal Your Body, Heal Your Life.
Yeah, Rose. It has all the lists. It's a charted book. And it has all the list of diseases, been from migraine to arthritis, to broken bones, to lung issues, emphysema, the emotional cause or causes of each disease, what you have been telling yourself or living by that has caused the emotional response that has manifested in the disease, and then what to say, a mantra, what to believe going forward in order to unwind that disease and get your body back in harmony.
Oh, I love it. And
with breast cancer, it is exactly what you said. The overgiving, over nurturing, over caring, and an embodiment in that is a lack of self-worth as well, a worthiness issue. And so it's more than, it's not giving out of martyrdom, like, look how much I give to you. It's this, it comes, my experience has been, is the overgiving is a lack of worthiness.
Yep. We don't feel worthy.
Which is deeply embedded. Some, women, some people have more than others, whether it's if you believe in past lifetimes or what you've carried in and what your soul contracts are, that you come in somewhat burdened and have you walk in those burdened ways. I know I did. Successful, happy enough, joyful, and but the things were missing, and I just felt like kept feeling like I was slipping rungs on the ladder and not really knowing why and how to stop that deep inside feeling. And so the breast cancer was a gift, but there are many, the kinds of cancer are key into figuring out what spirit, what God, what source is trying to tell you, or what you're trying to tell yourself in your body. So what I have learned, I was raised Catholic, and no longer practicing Catholic, but the part of God outside of you as an entity outside was something that we were taught, and certainly many believe to this day. But I like to think of it as we have God living on the inside of us, that we co-create with the divine is what I like to call it. Yes. So that we are one, because we are divine. We are divine beings. We are created.
Very yogic.
Right?
Yes, we already have that divine light in us.
Yeah. So how do you do that dance with the divine and in your pyramid structure, and what does that look like as you walk your days out?
I'm so glad you mentioned what you're talking about is very yogic about what is the causes of all the cancers and the disease. For someone who hasn't studied yoga or is not certified, you speak very much like a yogi, because we believe that in the chakras, the 7 channels of energy through our body, we don't believe anybody's broken. We just believe there's blockage or imbalances. And you're right, breast cancer is very much an imbalance of lacking in self-worth and lacking in, we feel that we're not worthy of our own love. We feel that we're not worthy of our own time and self-care. one thing that I do since the cancer is try to prioritize myself on that pyramid. And I practice, I love it's, self-care is something like being on an airplane. When there's turbulence and the mask goes down, your first instinct as a woman, especially as a woman, because we're the nurturers, is to take the mask and put it on your husband or put it on your child. But we have to put that mask on ourselves first, because if we pass out, we can be of no service to anybody else. So you and I are cut from the same cloth. We are always of service to other people without being of service to ourselves. And it's so funny that here we are having suffered these dis-eases that now that it's been brought to our attention, I think it was a God's knocking on the door saying, hey, you know what? You yourself deserve just as much love and attention. So now I practice that airplane rule, and especially in the last 3 years. And that started, and I think you're probably doing the same thing, maybe. You look at your life and you say to yourself, what can stay and what can go? I mean, what needs to stay or what can stay? What is helping to serve you? Right. And then what is going? We talk about this when we were at the farmer's market about energy vampires. Energy is such an amazing thing. You and I are both into energy, and energy, we can't create energy or destroy energy. That's strictly a God thing. But what we can do is move energy. And so sometimes energy is responsible for the blocks or imbalances. So what is it in our lives after having gone through cancer that is maybe that negative energy that we need to maybe reshift? We can't kill it or create it. We just move it out or shift it. So that will clear a path, I think, to practice more self-care. And that's what I did. I finally, one of those things, Randy, was fortunately, I had to sell my ad agency. It was a good decision because the ad agency, although was very, very fulfilling at the time, I did it for 28 years. It was an energy vampire. It was 70, 75-hour work weeks. And so it had to go because it was blocking my path to self-care. And however, so everybody has routines for self-care. What is your routine for self-care? You want to share? Because I was going to share my little routine. Like everybody should have. And sometimes people don't have, for any of the women watching here today, they're probably rolling their eyeballs saying, I don't have a routine for self-care. I got kids to take on the bus and food to put on the table. And I got to, pay the bills and do the laundry and take care of my parents. Even in all that, we still should have some sort of routine for self-care. Because if you don't, you become imbalanced and blocked. So, I have my new little rituals now that help me. But first I cleared the path, Randy. I looked at everything in my life and I said, you know what, this has to go because it's not serving me to be good to myself, or this can stay because it's helping me to practice self-care. I think it's important to kind of clear the field, and then evaluate and see where you are at this point in your life. Maybe one of the good things about, I could never have children either. And so maybe one of those positive things about that is we have a little bit more freedoms to make some choices that maybe our sisters that have kids can't at our age, or at this point in the right. game. Yeah, which, because children are such a blessing. And I know you and I probably tried for a long time, but it just wasn't in our cards. We play the cards we're dealt, and so just like with cancer, we played the cards we were dealt. And look at you and what you're trying to do, and look at me and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so, Rose, let's transition then into what you are trying to do. You're not only trying to do it, you're successfully doing it. And so let's tell the Life by Randy community, after you sold the ad agency, and I do want to get to the self-care routine. So we'll probably end on those self-care routines for this episode. But as we work towards those rituals of self-care, what are you doing now? I know what you're doing now, but I want everyone else to know what you're doing now. And those links will be below in the description box, Rose. So
Absolutely. Well, it's so interesting. I look at myself ever since the cancer as a conduit to God, or a conduit for God. And so it's so interesting. I'll teach yoga, I'll teach spin. And then I opened up this little coffee and juice bar. It's a little wellness cafe as a conduit. It's interesting how so many people have come into hundreds of people have come into the yoga studio or the wellness cafe, sharing with me their stories because they feel it's a nice, safe, sacred space. And it was all started because of the cancer. I was a yoga teacher before the cancer, but I was still in my other career. And the yoga was just like a little bit of like a side thing. Now the career in advertising is over, and the yoga and the wellness have become the primary focus. Because I feel with however much time I have left on this earth, and again, it's God's will, it's not mine. I am going to use it to help as many people as I can to feel their own power, their own self-worth, to practice their own self-care, and also to figure out, to use their breath, their body, their mindfulness, to use yoga as a conduit to their God. Because it doesn't matter to me who people worship. It's a relationship between you and your God. But I feel that in this world, it is wonderful to have a higher power. That is what all of my new businesses are trying to do. It's called Soul Stretch for a reason. I believe with the yoga, it's not just a workout. If you're just coming to my classes to get, sexy little butt and six-pack abs, that's great, but that's not the whole reason. It's not a workout, it's a work in. So we use movement, breath, meditation, all to connect to your higher power. So then you in turn could find and fulfill your higher purpose. So that's what the businesses are doing. And it's not for everybody, because some people, they just want a workout. They just want to come. Don't give me any, don't make me look inward. Don't let me, some people are, it's scary to go inside, figuring all this out is very hard. And this is where the blockages and the imbalances are that lead to all the diseases along the body. So once we figure out all this, but this requires leaning in, this requires going in, which a lot of people don't want to do. But then in our culture, in our society, especially in the last 10 years, maybe even more so in the last 2, people want to go in. They want more than just an aerobic workout. So that's where Soul Stretch Yoga and Soul Stretch Cycle come in. And then the Root to Rise Wellness Cafe is a component of that. It kind of it's movement, community, and nourishment all in one to help people figure out their higher calling so they can fulfill their higher purpose on their planet. We're all here for a reason, Randy. We all have a higher purpose, a higher planning, a higher calling. It's just figuring it out. And I always tell students, I don't have any answers. No, I have experiences. That's all I have. So
wisdom, right? Isn't
just
it
like you?
From
I don't have answers either. You just have a lot of experiences, Randy. So, and I think especially women, sometimes we get confused because we're looking, many of the students come in my studio and they're looking and searching and seeking for the answers. And I just encourage them to lay still and listen to the voice of their own soul. Turn out the white noise, turn off the Facebook, the Instagram, stop watching television, stop watching the news. I know you're a proponent of this too.
Oh yes,
very much.
I've watched TV for many years, and
so proud to hear that.
I mean, for me, when looking at Operation Mockingbird, right, and what the television,
yeah, I love that
through programming and channeling. I will not let that in my psyche and into me. I get to choose and study. I'm not going to sit in front of a television and have someone else's vision using programming and channeling that I am not personally and spiritually okay with. pumping into my sacred vessel. That's that's how I look at it.
And if we could encourage more of the students or your listeners or viewers to do that, in fact, that is one of the things with ritual. Like I always challenge my students, 1 day per month, maybe even just 1 day. If you can't do 1 day a week, 1 day per month, avoid all media, take a detox. Even if it's just a Monday or a Tuesday, you don't look at email, you don't look at Facebook or Twitter, you don't turn on the TV, you don't put anything on, you just sit with a book and a cup of tea, or you just do walking meditation in the woods, or you just practice yoga, or you just talking with friends, like what we're doing, you know, without this is not talking. Okay. This is just white noise, white media. And this is a necessary evil in today's business world, as you know. But if you can put this down just for a day and detox and listen to the voice of your own soul, that's where the answers are. The answers already lie inside of us. We just are just so buried in white noise. And so one of my missions at the yoga and the juice bar and the yoga and spin studio is to get people to stop listening to news, to stop listening to the media. They want us dependent on them. They want us to, escape with binge watching Netflix. 7 hours on the couch, binge watching Netflix is not the answer.
Right.
So.
And when you think about what words are, net, flicks, cast out a net, kept you with their flicks.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I like how you put that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. And I like the tele-lies. I'm going to have to share that with my students in class.
Television, tele-vision.
Tele-vision. Yep.
And that's what it is, because they are serving up a particular vision, and how they see things, events, or how they want them to be. But we have the power to actually create our own realities and cast those visions ourselves. That's our sovereign right. We are sovereign beings. We have the divine. We are divine beings. The divine living on the inside of us. We create, and so it's it's the words. I love wordsmithing them. They mean something. I'm a lawyer, so that's where I come from, in a constitutional law, former constitutional law litigator and professor as well. So the freedoms, the sovereignty, and the wordsmithing of what they're trying to tell us, and also instilling fear. If something instills fear, right? Remember what fear is: false evidence appearing real.
Yep. Fear.
And you can't walk in fear and love simultaneously. Perfect love casts out fear. We're sovereign beings, and we're meant to take back our power. And I really believe, and in fact, I know that this time right now, what is this, October 25th, 2021, is a very crucial time in all of history. And many of us are walking through this ascension process, going from 3D to 5D, going inward, having diseases come upon us, like mine did very suddenly and then left suddenly, by me shifting the energy, finding the frequency of joy, co-creating with the divine, as Yeshua even said, that we will do greater things than he, because he is going to the Father. Additionally, it's ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open. It's an affirmative step on our parts to do this. Yeshua also said, with regard to healing and miracles, that whatever we ask in his name, if we believe, we will receive. Well, what does believing mean? Acting as if it has already happened. And
Correct.
So in the curing of my stage 4 breast cancer metastasized to the bones, and the blood was ill, my bone marrow was ill, all my numbers were off, my organ numbers were off. And within 5 months, well, I found that frequency of joy and lived as if my healing had already happened. And within 5 months, the PET scan said it was all gone, including the tumor, down to the microscopic level. It was interesting. A couple of days after I started being diagnosed, is because it's the effects and bone biopsies and about 3 weeks of a diagnostic process at the Cleveland Clinic. A couple of days after the process started, I was getting ready for bed and doing my evening rituals and brushing my teeth. And I heard, that still small voice that is so powerful that your soul is being spoken to with your higher self, the connection to divinity. This isn't so you can die. This is so you can truly live. That's what the dis-ease manifested in my body as, so that I can learn how to truly live. I told EJ when I had received this word, my husband, that we're going to hear a lot of scary words. We're not going to trigger. We're not going to assign emotions to these words. Because I knew I was in stage 4. It was everywhere, right? Since stage 5 is, I think, dead. And cancer is a scary word. And I thought, well, I'm going to call them my C cells. Again, change the language. The C cells, close to seashells, right? So I made them, I fell in love with them. I was encouraged to name my tumor. Her name was Melissa. Melissa showed up. So like Melissa showed up for a reason. She has a message. It was a messenger, right? And so I could love Melissa because Melissa was telling me things that I needed to hear. And so I just I shifted the paradigm of what this whole crazy cancer stuff is. And I refused to operate from a position of fear. And so whether it's cancer, whether it's losing a job, whether it's anything, anytime you go into fear, I would suggest you go inward to say, what is this situation trying to teach me? What this is for my benefit. How can we work together, sit next to each other on the bench and have a conversation, right?
Right, exactly. And not be so fearful of it, because, like me, your life probably changed because of it. And we've changed, I think, for the better, both of us.
Absolutely.
Awesome. It's just reshifting the energy.
Yes.
That's really what it is.
Yes.
And I was fortunate that I had a breast surgeon who's from India. And so she's an advocate of both. She's science, but she's also alternative health. And it was a nice balance for me because there are several of us that feel that, both have merit. And so I like that she came from both sides. She goes to India every other year. So she studies there. And then we collect and connected because she loved my journey with yoga. And she was there for my first 2 events. I did this thing called Namaste Cancer. It was a big benefit. And I invited a bunch of cancer survivors to come and get Reiki and some other healing modalities, sound baths. And it was wonderful. But she was there, she spoke and just talked about what you need. And every individual is different, so
yes.
Whatever makes you, like you said, makes your mind feel at ease, and whatever works. But it's all shifting the energy, so, but I'm so happy that you're doing so well.
Thank you.
I'm so happy. Yeah, you're doing great.
And I had another PET scan in July that showed no cancer as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
And isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to just live in the moment? I think for you and I that have been diagnosed with aggressive cancers, I don't live. I used to always live in the future. If you live in the past, that's not good either. If you live in the future, it's not good. And what cancer, because I go 6 months to 6 months on my scans, and I just go within those 6 months, and that's where I live. I don't live in 3 years from now or 5 years from now. And it's so nice. It's so nice just to live in the moment. This is how we should live. Because, Rita, you've heard me say in yoga, tomorrow's promised to no one.
Yeah.
No one. You could be totally healthy and get hit by a bus. Right?
Yes.
I mean, you could be totally healthy, have perfect health, and you could, step off of a ladder and die, or tomorrow's promised to no one. And then, what yoga teaches us most, what I love about the gift of yoga is this. One day, our narrative is going to end. Every one of us. Nobody goes on forever, at least not in this shell.
Right,
Who knows
right.
how many incarnations we have, but in this shell, as you see this now, this is not going to last forever. And what yoga teaches me is to practice ultimate detachment. That's what, Shavasana means, death pose, corpse pose. And when I lay my students down in Shavasana, they're shedding something, they're shedding something that doesn't serve us. They're dying a little death so they can make room for something better to come in its place. That's what happened to you and I. Cancer helped us to shed a little something that wasn't serving us, or to die a little death. But ultimately, we live better. And so therefore, when we come to our final breath, our last narrative, whatever that is, we die with no regrets. Because if you want a good death, you got to live a good life. And up until cancer, we thought we were living a great life because it was based on material success and things of that nature, but ultimately we weren't. So cancer is really, for the two of us, it's making us live such a great life today.
Absolutely.
And I feel so blessed. And I feel blessed that I meet so many wonderful people like you, because I'm so open. I do believe, you share a story. A lot of people know that my husband is recovered. He's 35 years sober. And I'm 3. So he's a recovering alcoholic. I'm a cancer survivor. And like you, I'm a non-practicing Catholic anymore. I don't do that, but it's important for people like you and me and my husband to share, because people see hope in that. It gives people hope. And I'm very open on all my websites about his story and my story, because I can't even tell you, hundreds of people walk in and they either ask about him, and they want to be in touch with him because maybe they know somebody in their world that needs to be recovered or is having drug and alcohol problems, or they come in because they've just newly been diagnosed from cancer and they want some guidance and maybe proper nutrition, etc. So I'm so glad so many people don't want to share. They don't, I met many people that have been cancer survivors that I didn't even know, like they were cancer survivors 10 years, 12 years, and they never said a word to me until they would go to my websites and they say in my profile, I'm open about it. And there's no wrong or right. If people don't want to share their story, it's totally fine. But if you're comfortable to share where you've been, it can be such an asset to other people. It can be such a healing modality. There's healing power in numbers. And if we know we're together, if your story can help somebody else, if it could shine the lamp onto the path of someone else, why not share it?
Yeah.
Why not share your story with survivorship or with recovery? Because Doug is very open and very much talking about recovery. Sid, whom you met, Sid's been 11 years sober. He shouts it to the mountaintops because he wants people to know what he's been through. And so maybe he can lend a helping hand if somebody needs help with drugs and alcohol, just like we share our story with survivorship.
And I think, Rose, with being open, we've got the ego to deal with in the left side of the brain, the ego, and catering to the ego, fueling the ego, living from the ego runs counter to the right side of the brain of our connection to God, connection to source, with our ultimate goal of serving humanity. And so there's this balance in this dance, and kind of death to the ego is one of my main goals in living and walking in a way that best honors my purpose, honors the divinity within, and then to ultimately serve humanity. So it's not meant to, our light is not meant to be kept under a bushel, right? It is we are the light of the world. And so it is, we put ourselves out there, talk about our issues, our struggles. Again, that's kind of death to the ego, right? And this is like, no, this is who we were, and this is what we're learning. We're awakening. We continue to learn so that we could best serve humanity. And that is when we're aligned with our purpose, and that's true fulfillment and satisfaction. And really, that's the bottom line to it all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm glad we've met each other on our journey in this beautiful place called Lakeside. Yes. And it's just wonderful to share. And if any of your readers or your your viewers or listeners are ever out in our little neck of the woods, they should come and look us up. You know, it's
Absolutely.
wonderful out here.
And so before we get to, we're going to close it with the rituals of self-care, but it's Soul Stretch. So SOUL, and the links will be below. Soul Stretch is kind of there's Soul Stretch Yoga, Soul Stretch Cycle, and the amazing Sweetest Cafe on the outside. I took some pictures when I was there the other day, picking up some great, oh my gosh, I love that turmeric latte.
Yes, isn't that fun?
Oh my goodness.
Golden milk.
The golden milk. Yes. So thank you for that. And so I picked up some things when I was there the other day. And so I'll put some of the pictures up and the links below. You do have you have an email list? Do you have a blog as well?
We
do,
you have yes.
Amazing inspirations. You just went, because you're Italian heritage, you just took a group of 28 yogis to Italy.
Yes.
I hope to join next time.
And, you'd love it.
Oh, gosh, I'm sure I will. And so welcome to the Life by Randy community. I'm giving you a hug until I can see you in person, which is hopefully very soon.
Yes, thank you, love.
So you're welcome. Thank you. And thank you for the rose quartz.
Oh, yes.
I'm
good vibrations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love it. It looks so beautiful on your wrist. Looks gorgeous.
Thank you. Thanks for the gift. I've worn it almost every day since you gave it to me this past summer at the yoga class.
Awesome. And I've been looking for more of those. They're hard to find. So yes, cherish that little guy. It's great vibrational energy into your being.
Yep.
Yeah. So
unconditional
and loving.
Yes. And so Rose, what are your some of your rituals of self-care that you could share and inspire others to
absolutely
adopt or take for their own?
Yeah. So it's so nice. You know, we practice Ayurveda in yoga, and I think you may have remembered I just did an Ayurvedic. I do Ayurvedic cooking series up here so Lakeside and Marblehead, we call this area vacation land, listeners, just in case you're curious. This is very much, I consider it like the Hamptons of Ohio. You know how New York City has the Hamptons where they go away for weekends and it's on the water. This is very much the same thing. And I'm very blessed that I live on West Harbor. I have a beautiful view. Water is very healing for me. And it's one of my elements that helps to heal me. I feel like God is in the water and it's flowing in and out of us. And our body is 70% water. So one of the things I like to do every night is, or if not every night, at least a couple times a week, is take a beautiful saltwater bath. I encourage a lot of people in the evening, after you're done with dinner, try and eat early. It's very Ayurvedic to eat early and close the kitchen by 6 or 6:30, eating something very light. Ayurvedics eat the main meal in the middle of the day. So like around 1 or 2 o'clock, that's the heaviest meal of the day. That's where we would consume, if we are not vegetarian, that's where we consume meat or some of the heavier products, because Ayurveda, it's not veganism or vegetarianism, it's eating in season and what's in tune with your body. So, and we can do a whole nother talk about that, Randy, about Ayurvedic lifestyle. But this is a great time of year because the seasons are about to change. They're about to show us how beautiful, the leaves and the trees are about to show us how beautiful change can be. So go with the flow. This is a great time of year. Like tonight, it's raining. Dry yourself a beautiful bath, put in some nice Epsom salts, use your own essential oils. Don't buy any of those, colored bath bombs. They're just all, artificial and
chemical
and dyes. The what'd you say?
Chemical.
Andy? Chemical. Stay away from chem labs. And soak in the tub for 20 minutes. It's all you'll need just to recalibrate the body, because your body is mostly water. It's a nice ritual to do. Rituals are very important in the yogic world, and they help with self-care, because before cancer and I wasn't taking care of myself, I had no rituals. So now I read every morning when I get up. I'll take an hour and read, and then I'll journal. That's a great thing to do on the path to self-care. Get used to your own voice. Get used to talking to yourself, not the soundtrack, not the old sad, sorry soundtracks we have in our head about guilt or shame or why we're not worthy of this or that. What I like to do is I like to remind my students to go, instead of here, go here. I'm going to point right here to the heart. Okay. This is your heart. And if you put your hands over your heart, love, right here, this is where your story lives. Right here. And the problem is so many times we don't honor our story. We do not honor it, whether it's crooked like a river, like mine, or straight as an arrow. Your story is who made you. And so if we start by honoring our story first, that changes what goes on up here. And then this story changes the soundtrack in this story. A great way to do that is with journaling. So maybe in the morning, if you feel comfortable, get up at 5 o'clock before the house starts to stir. If you have children or if you have a husband, get up early and sit for a moment, read something in the Word, read something that's inspirational, that connects you to God. And then take half an hour for that, and then take a half an hour to journal. And if you write nothing but nonsense, that's fine. It'll just start a conversation, a dialogue between you and yourself. And then as time goes, you'll find that you're going to fill 10 journals within the course of a year with stuff. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, Randy, because I'm sure do you journal?
I used to. The lawyer in me doesn't want things written down.
Oh. That's funny. No evidence. No evidence. I get it.
Story.
Yes. But do you take saltwater baths, love?
I do. Oh, I
Yes,
do. I have for years. I do.
And
I do baking soda,
which is great.
Soda for the alkaline and drying out, and sometimes with the detoxing. So I've just, my last show was on detoxing and what I've done personally to detox with the.
Because the baking soda and the salt will draw out all the impurities. When I was going through chemo, a counterbalance to the chemo was sitting in a tub with, I had a port, so I'd have to keep the port above the water level, but I would sit in the tub and let all the impurities, I'd let the chemo do its thing, but then I'd want to bring that chemo out of me, and saltwater baths really, really help. Another thing, another wonderful little, wonderful little thing, a ritual is, if not at least once a day, and I just came back from Italy, and Italians are great at this. Italians, Italy is one of the 5 areas of the blue zones. I don't know if people know this. And I just taught this cooking class, as you know, at Gideon when you're in town on the blue zones. And we had 120 people show up. It was wonderful. And Italy is one of the 5 blue zones of the world. And the blue zones are very simple. If you don't know what they are, in this country, the average woman lives to 78. The average man lives to 72. And I personally know men and women that never even made it to 78 or 72, where in the blue zones, they live on average 96 to 103. So what is one thing that they do in Italy every single day? They walk. Take a walk. They call it passeggiata. So every day when I was in Italy for 12 days, every single day at 5 o'clock, 365 days a year, right after they have a meal, they go out into nature or the street or the town, and they stroll. And they do it sometimes by themselves, or they do it in small groups of 2 or 3. The walking is sacred. Walking, when you go heel toe into the ground, you're connecting with nature, you're connecting with God. You're away from the news, the media, the Facebook, the internet, and you're connecting soul to soul with God. And it's meditative and it's yogic and it's breathing in and out. So it's a beautiful ritual to start. And if you can only start for 5 minutes, encourage you to get a dog. A dog is a great excuse to walk. You, Randy, living in Lakeside, oh my God, you have some of the most beautiful walking trails. And I live on West Harbor, so I have the water here, but across the street, I have the beach. So I walk over to East Harbor State Park with my 2 pups. And it's such a great ritual. It clears the mind. It recalibrates the body. It moves everything. It moves the energy. It shifts. Remember, we can't create or destroy energy. We can only move energy. So it reshifts. And that's what the people in the 5 blue zones do. They walk every day, once a day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Try and get walking into a daily ritual, even if it's just 5 minutes just around the block. So those are just some fun little things for mind, body, spirit, and I've got many more rituals, but that'll be a whole nother conversation that we can do that are so good for you, that up until cancer, I never did, because I was just corporate. I'd get up in the morning and my ritual was to go to the desk and the computer first thing, turn it on and work 13-hour days. And I never took walks, and I never, ate healthy and drank green
Rose,
juice.
right? We thought we were living, but that's not living. That's enslavement, actually.
That's a good way to put it, Randy. It was enslavement.
Yeah.
You're an attorney. You know how those hours work.
Exactly. And living on the laptop and the email
Yes.
and the, I have been a lawyer since the 80s. But we would have, when I first started, there were libraries where we'd walk and get the books and and now none of that. Everything's online and you just sit in front of a laptop,
All
getting,
day.
the electromagnetic fields, the EMFs flying off of that. Yeah. Just so, we'll end this the way we started it, with cancer being a gift. Any dis-ease, any challenge is a gift. It's a gift. It's a messenger for recalibration. And because we are so very loved, there are messengers
Absolutely.
that allow these certain diseases and imbalances in our lives so that we can truly live.
Absolutely. If it doesn't challenge you, it's not going to change you, love. So welcome the challenge, welcome the change, roll with it,
Yep.
and
see where it takes you.
See where it takes you. You'll be so surprised. I mean, it's for both of us, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to each one of us.
Absolutely.
You are quite the inspiration. So keep on keeping on. Shine that beautiful, bright light, girlfriend. It is magnetic.
Thank you, love. You and the same to you. And so welcome to Life by Randy, our community, and the first of many, many conversations with the amazing Rose Sabin. Love you, Rose, so much. Thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom, your heart and your passion with me and all of us.
My pleasure.
God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.